This is Val Little, and I'm calling this meeting of the Tucson AMA Groundwater Users Advisory Council to order. Today is September 18th, and the time is 1 o'clock. This meeting is being held virtually and in person, and I am Val Little, Chair. Would members please introduce themselves?
Greenland, Cortera Marana Irrigation District.
Mike Block, retired Metro Water District and Arizona Hydrological Society.
We have a quorum. Would ADWR staff please introduce themselves?
Sure, thanks, Chairman Little. My name is Natalie Mast. I'm the Active Management Area Director here at ADWR, and we can kind of go around the table here.
Hi, I'm Joy Arevalo-Vera. I'm the AMA Program Supervisor.
Hi, I'm Amanda Overholt. I'm the Community Water Systems Coordinator.
Good afternoon, I'm Rebecca Bernard, the manager of the Arizona Water Banking Authority.
Hi, Ryan Nelson, I'm the AMA Supervisor.
Hi, I'm Madison Moreno. I am the AMA Conservation Plan Team Lead.
Good afternoon, I'm Emily Young. I'm with the Colorado River Section and work on the environmental programs.
I'm Melissa Sykes. I'm the Water Management Assistance Program Coordinator.
I'm Colin Wogenstall. I'm a statewide planning supervisor.
And that's everyone for us.
Wow.
Everybody.
That's a
Pat there.
Are you with us?
Oh, can you hear us okay? You were cutting out a little bit there.
We're trying to figure out if our fourth member is on the call.
I see him listed.
Pat, are you there? There he is, yeah. And Pat is here, so we've got quorum plus one. Okay, back to the script. Wally, would you guys introduce yourselves as long as we're in the audience? We got audience members here locally.
Maya Teachea with Metro Water.
Wally Wilson, Metro Water District.
Good. And Pat, you're here. He's not. Okay. I'm going to start with item number 2, meeting logistics. Joy, it's all yours, dear.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Good afternoon, everybody. Before we get started, I would like to go over some webinar logistics. Members of the public, we ask that you please keep your phone muted during the meeting. This helps reduce audio feedback. If during the meeting you have a question, please feel free to type your question in the chat box, and they will be read and addressed at the end of each agenda item. If you would like to speak to the council, the call to the public will be the time to do so. Please indicate in the chat that you would like to speak, and we will unmute your phone. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on ADWR's website and YouTube page once the recording is generated. Finally, if you have any technical difficulties, please contact our help desk. Their contact information can be found on the screen. And all of the presenters, just please ask for the next slide. I'll be presenting for you on the PowerPoint after each agenda item. Thank you. That's it. Thank you, Ms. Chairwoman.
Thank you. Item number 3, Natalie, you're going to give us the director's report.
Yeah, you can move ahead on me. Yes, thank you. So, Chairwoman Little, members of the council, thanks for meeting with us today. I just wanted to provide a few updates on some activities that ADWR has been working on throughout the last several months since we've met. The first thing I was going to talk about is staffing. You'll notice that I'm not Kyle, so we've had some things moving around here at ADWR. So Kyle has moved on from the agency. We have definitely appreciated all the time he spent at ADWR, but he moved to California. So he's actually now working for California DWR. We miss him dearly, but we're really happy for this next adventure for him. So we are going back to kind of that structure of just having one active management area director as we've done in the past. So you'll be working more closely with me instead of with both me and Kyle. So Kyle, we've gone down to one director. You'll also notice that Kennedy Shepard is not in the room here. She is still with the agency, thankfully, but she's moved into a different position here at the agency. So we're currently in the process of filling that GUAC coordinator position. So with the next meeting, you will likely meet our new staff person for that position. I also have, I don't have Michelle C. here, but Michelle C. Benali has taken on some additional responsibilities in the active management areas. She was previously responsible for our conveyances team. She is still overseeing conveyances, at least indirectly, but she has also taken on responsibility for the processes associated with the establishment of Douglas and Wallapai, the Douglas AMA and the Wallapai Valley INA. Joy, to my left here, who you just heard from, Joy Ravila-Vera. Joy is our new conveyances supervisor. So she reports to Ms. Chelsea and is responsible for conveyances. She's also responsible for the GUACs and for the WMAP program. So in these types of meetings, you'll probably be hearing a little bit more from Joy. Also in the room with me are Ryan Melson. It's actually his first day, but we're really excited to have him. He is our he's our new conservation programs supervisor. So he's taken Colette Tansini, moved on to a different position, and Ryan is taking her position. And also next to me is Colin Wogenstall. Colin is a new supervisor for our supply and demand team, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Finally, I just wanted to let you all know that John Riggins has moved on from the agency. He was formerly our statewide planning manager. John took a position with WIFA, so he is still around. You may still hear from him, but we are currently working on backfilling his position in statewide planning. I do have a couple other topics to cover before I'm totally done here, but I wanted to pause here and see if you had any questions about all of that.
That's helpful. I'm wondering, how are you guys sort of stabilized now? I know everybody's having trouble with hiring and recruitment. It seems like the vacancy rate used to be high. Are you feeling like you're getting a handle on it, or is this an ongoing issue?
I think we're getting a handle on it. It's a really good question. We are starting to backfill some of these vacancies. We're definitely having some people move around, but I guess I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're making really good progress on stabilizing the team.
Yeah, good.
Hey, Natalie, whenever you think that it's stable enough, could you put out another sheet? I know you put out one a year or two ago that gave everybody in their position, and that was really helpful. If you could do that again, that'd be great.
Sure, definitely. Okay. Any other questions before I move on to my next topic? Oh.
Pat, Mike, anything? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The next item I wanted to cover is just a really quick one. Actually, the next two items, my remaining two items here are really quick. I just wanted to make sure we're keeping the GUACs generally informed. So last year, we, as an agency, got a new requirement as an agency, which is to create water supply and demand assessments of each of the 51 groundwater basins around the state at least once every 5 years. So we're required to issue at least 6 reports on water supply and demand on a basin, at least 6 basin reports for water supply and demand each year, and this is our first year doing so. So our first round of reports will be issued in December. Our deadline is December 1st. And the basins that we are issuing reports for this year are in kind of west central Arizona. We have Harquahala, McMullen, Butler, and Tiger Wash. And then in southeastern Arizona, we have Douglas, Wilcox, and San Bernardino. So So those will all be issued in December. We'll have more information about all of that, obviously, once those are published. We are in the process of setting the basins for next year's analysis, and we'll be providing more information about those 2024 basins once we've finalized those. For the final topic that I had, I just wanted to cover some very high-level information on the Governor's Water Policy Council. So Governor Hobbs did create a new iteration of our Governor's Council. So this is called the Governor's Water Policy Council. Their last meeting was on September 6th, and also last week they had a couple committee meetings. There are two committees. One is related to assured water supply, and one is related to rural groundwater. The goal of those two committees and the council at this time is to be creating proposals specifically around assured water supply and rural groundwater management, and with the objective of having some framework, some proposals to the governor by December. So that committee, or that council, is working very quickly toward that December goal. Are there any questions on either of those last items?
I don't have any questions. I don't see anybody raising a hand or anything, so I think we're good. Thank you, Natalie, very much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 4, Colorado River update. Emily?
Yes, thank you. All right, we can go ahead and skip the introductions since we've already done that. We can, next slide, please. First, we'll start with an overall system update. For the upper basin reservoirs, we have Navajo at 72%, Morrow Point at, I believe, 83. I'm sorry, the box is right there. But so we've got, sorry, at 94%, Blue Mesa at 83%, Flaming Gorge at 90%, Fontenelle, I believe, is at 91%, and one more up there that I can't see. I was reading right off the slide for this one, and then Lake Powell is currently at 38% of storage capacity. Fontenelle is at 91. Currently, Lake Powell is at a reservoir elevation of 30,574 feet, and most importantly for Arizona, Lake Mead is at 34% of storage capacity, which equals to a reservoir elevation of 1,066 feet. The total system storage is currently at 44% full, which is 10% more than those percent we were at the same time last year. This equals 25.62 million acre feet of storage versus 19.85 that we saw last year. Next slide, please. Now we'll go into a review of past water years in the 2024 forecast. 2023 was a good year in terms of water. Snowpack peaked at 161% of the seasonal median on April 7th, translating to 10.62 million acres of inflows to Powell for runoff. Total water year inflows are on track to hit about 13.6 million acre feet, which is about 142% of normal, which is not quite a 2011 experience, but more than what we saw in 2019. Likewise, intervening flows between the dams have been above normal for much of the year, well above the 5-year average tracked by reclamation. Tributary inflows below Mead were also improved this year, with both Alamo Dam and the Bill Williams and Painted Rock and the Gila River releasing water. The Gila River actually had water flowing into the Colorado River, which doesn't happen often. It's actually only happened twice in the last 20 years, with the last time being in 2010. As for 2024, the summer forecasts range from 6 million acre feet to 17.6 million acre feet, with the most probable forecast of 10 million acre feet. There's still a considerable amount of uncertainty in these forecasts, as there is still little information available to drive them. As you can see with the overall trend, and especially in more recent years, the current forecasted maximum does not have the best chances of coming to fruition. While not impossible, the maximum is greater than anything we've seen in the period of record, with the exception of the 80s. It would also imply 2 relatively wet years occurring back to back, which again is not impossible, but with what we've seen in the more recent drought conditions, not as likely. Go to the next slide, please. As for the forecast for reservoir elevations, here we have Lake Powell end-of-month elevations from Reclamation's August 24-month study and 2-year probabilistic projections. The probable maximum is in blue, the most probable is in green, and the probable minimum is in red. The end of calendar year 2023 projections, Powell, are 3,574 feet under the most probable scenario and 3,569 feet under the probable minimum scenario. The end of calendar year 2024 projections in Powell are about 3,589 feet under the most probable scenario and 3,551 feet under the probable minimum scenario. Under these projections, Powell is set to release 8.8 million acre feet for 2023. These projections are based on the current operating regime and water use. These assumptions may change depending on discussions between the states, actions by reclamation, and the outcome of the SEIS. Releases are projected to be 7.48 million acre feet for water year 2024 based on the August 2023 min, most, and max. Go to the next slide. Now we're looking at the Lake Mead end of month elevation projections. The end of calendar year projections for Lake Mead are 1,065 feet for 2023 under the most probable and probable minimum scenarios. For 2024, we're looking at Tier 1 reductions for Arizona.
Could you hold on just a second?
Yes.
You need to back away from the microphone just a little bit. You're over-modulating, and it's just kind of getting real choppy. Like 3 inches further away from the microphone.
How does this sound? Is that better?
That is perfect.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So for 2024, we're looking at Tier 1 reductions for Arizona under the most probable scenario. That would mean 512,000 acre feet in reductions to Arizona. Of course, it assumes no additional reductions that may materialize from the new SEIS. The end of year projections in need for 2024 are about 1,057 feet under the most probable scenario and 1,048 under the probable minimum scenario. If you look at the most minimum probable, which is that red line, there is a potential to drop into a Tier 2A by April 2025, but it is more likely we would be in a Tier 1. Much of this is still unknown as the water year 2024 begins on October 1st, and there's still much to be known about snowpack at that time, so just keep that in mind for planning purposes. Go to the next slide. Now for a quick update on the SEIS process. Reclamation is continuing to work on the supplemental EIS to the 2007 interim guidelines and drought contingency plan after the initial draft was withdrawn in May. The new draft will model the lower basin proposal and is anticipated to be released in October. This includes conservation activities funded by the Inflation Reduction Act under the Lower Colorado Conservation Program. Lower basin participants include both on and off-river users. In Arizona, this includes CAP contractors, travel users on and off-river, irrigators along the main stem in the Yuma area, and upstream. This will provide coverage for the remaining interim period until post-2026 operations take place. And then we can go to the next slide. For the post-2026 process, ADWR signed 2 scoping comment letters, which were submitted to the Bureau of Reclamation on August 15th. ADWR submitted a letter with the 6 other basin states principles establishing the unique interests they have in the management of the river and the need for greater collaboration to create sustainable solutions as well as greater collaboration with Mexico. The department also submitted its own letter reiterating its stance on the equitable share of the burdens required to protect the Colorado River system. Another key takeaway of the letter is that if a conservation or storage framework were to be implemented for the entire system, Arizona will require an interstate framework. The final key point of the ADWR letter is to minimize or to update the water user practices in order to minimize waste throughout the basin. Most of the letters that were sent in by other states and across the country have been published on Reclamation's website as well as ours, and ours is also available on the department's website. And then if there are any questions, we can answer those.
Yep, Emily, this is Val. I have a question. Does the last phrase there on your previous slide, does that translate to thoughts that the department is going to ratchet down lost and unaccounted for water to 5%?
It's just stating that that there does need to be changes made. I don't think those exact changes have been decided yet, and that would come through negotiations in the NEPA process.
Okay, but is it being talked about in the department?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Other questions from other members?
No.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you. Okay, Rebecca, item number 5, Water Bank, preliminary plan.
Chair Little, members of the council, according to statutes, the commission must adopt a plan of operation by January 2024, and this plan must feature monies available from the water banking fund, the obligations of the bank, and the volume of water the bank is planning on storing and purchasing. Comments and questions from the council today will be summarized in the final plan of operation that I will present to the commission on December 6, 2023. Next, please. Next year, there will be no excess CAP water to the Water Banking Authority. This means we will not be able to store water. However, there are other ways we can develop credits, develop water. We could purchase long-term storage credits, and we also intend to develop ICS firming credits. These are intentionally created surplus firming credits that we can develop pursuant to our agreement with the Gila River Indian community, or the community. Next, please. So here's the funding for our 2024 plan of operation. I will go through each funding source here. So first, with withdrawal fees, we'll have withdrawals in the Phoenix and the Tucson AMAs, and the amounts you can see in the table do not include the $200,000 the legislature authorized to be used to support the Arizona Navigable Stream Adjudication Commission and SAC for fiscal year 2024. So that is not included in this table. So with withdrawal fees collected in the Phoenix AMA, we intend to spend around $1.7 million to develop 5,638 acre-feet of ICS firming credits. To do that, we'll actually purchase ICS at a rate of $276 per acre-foot, and that is the price that is listed in the IGA we have with the community. So we'll actually develop 6,246 ICS, but because there's a 10% loss factor, we actually only develop 90% of that. With withdrawal fees collected in the Tucson AMA, we could spend $754,000 to develop 2,120 acre-feet of long-term storage credits. That is assuming we would purchase credits with a rate of $360 per acre-foot, and that is based on Tier 3 CAP water rates for 2024. Now, moving on to water storage tax. The amounts you see here include carryover from funds reserved by the CWCD Board of Directors for the water bank purchases in 2021 and 2022. And with water storage tax in the Phoenix AMA, we could spend $3.3 million to purchase 9,260 long-term storage credits. And the purchase rate for the Phoenix AMA in 2024 would be $359 per acre-foot. And finally, in the Tucson AMA, we could spend $7.8 million to develop 21,740 long-term storage credits. And overall, we're looking at spending $13.6 million to develop 38,758 credits total. Next, please. Now, firming for 2024. So next year we'll be in a tier 1 shortage condition. According to recent CWCD estimates, this shortage will impact the CAP NIA pool. This means that the Water Banking Authority will have a firming obligation for the community. That volume will be 6,153 acre-feet. And in this table here, you can see the credits we will use to firm the community. So essentially, we'll be using water that has been pre-delivered on reservation from 2015 to 2018. And so we will extinguish 6,153 acre-feet from our account to firm the community. And there will be no firming required for CAP M&I subcontractors and no firming required for on-river contractors either. And finally, we have not received a request from Southern Nevada Water Authority to create intentionally created unused apportionment in 2024. So there will be no recovery for Nevada. Next. So this is my last slide. In that first column, you can see our different objectives and the location of credits. And in the second column, you can see how many credits we will have at the end of 2023. And so if you look at the gray highlighted area, you can see those firming credits that we currently have for the community, so 22,996. And so we're planning on using a little over 6,000 of them to firm the community. So we'll have almost 17,000 left at the end of 2024. I also wanted to point out credit exchanges that may happen in 2024, if not earlier, sorry. So if we look at the bottom part of the table at groundwater management fees, in 2022 there are entities entities of the Phoenix and the Tucson AMAs that stored water in the Pinal AMA, and that was an agreement that was made during DCP as part of DCP's implementation plan. So the Water Banking Authority agreed to exchange these credits with these entities. So essentially, if we look at the Tucson AMA, in 2023, the City of Tucson and Freeport will be credited, overall 4,750 long-term storage credits for water they stored in the Pinal AMA. And as soon as they request the exchange, the Water Banking Authority will give them credits that the water bank has in the Tucson AMA. And in exchange, of course, these two entities will give us credits they have accrued in the Pinal AMA. So it's just a change of ownership. There is no physical water movement. And it can happen in 2024. It could also, entities also have until the end of 2026 to request the exchange. Next. I'll be happy to take questions now, if you have it.
Rebecca?
Any questions?
Yeah. I was curious about on the purchase of long-term storage credits in the Tucson AMA, if the water bank has any contracts.
Chair Little, members of the council, we currently do not have contracts to purchase long-term storage credits in the Tucson AMA.
Okay. And where have the long-term storage credits and the purchasing occurred from which entities?
Chair Little, members of the council, could you please ask the question again? I didn't hear that.
I was curious as far as in the past when the water bank has been purchasing long-term storage credits in the Tucson AMA, which entities have sold those to the water bank?
Chair Little, members of the council, in the past we have purchased credits from the Action Indian community. We have purchased credits from the city of Tucson. It was actually our first ever purchase in 2015. We also had a contract to purchase credits from the Tohono O'odham Nation. And yes, I think these are all of the entities in the Tucson AMA. I would say that we also have, per statute, we can also purchase, the Tohono O'odham Nation must offer us 10% of accruable credits when they store water in the Tucson AMA. But that's, this is not, that wouldn't require an agreement, a special contract. That's according to statutes. And so, for example, in 2022, we did purchase long-term storage credits from the Tohono O'odham Nation pursuant to statutes.
That's what I was wondering, if that was still in effect.
It is.
Thank you, Rebecca. If there's no other questions?
Okay, you're welcome.
Chair Little, if
Amanda?
I could,
Sorry.
apologies,
Sure.
Chair
Yeah,
Little. We had a comment regarding the Colorado River presentation. Melissa, could you help with that, please?
Yeah, Kristen, if you want to speak, I have you unmuted now.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everybody. Chairwoman Little, my name is Kristen Johnson. I'm the Colorado River Programs Manager here at ADWR. I just wanted to go back very briefly to the question that you had asked about the item on Emily's slide referencing efficiency measures and waste around the basin, and really what that item was referring to, and that was in the ADWR comment letter for the post-2026 scoping period. There's a federal regulation that the Bureau of Reclamation is able to utilize. It is under 43 CFR Part 417, and every Section 5 contractor in the lower basin goes through a 417 consultation with the Bureau of Reclamation every year as they are preparing to put in their water order for the year. What that usually entails is mostly, again, just going through sort of the next year's tier shortage and requirements and going through the water order. What the Bureau has the ability to do is to make a efficiency determination and whether that contractor is putting their water entitlement to an efficient and beneficial use. As of right now, that regulation is only applicable and only authorized for use in the lower basin, and it is not necessarily being used, we believe, Arizona believes that it is not necessarily being used to the full extent that reclamation could. And so in our scoping comment letter, what we were really trying to underscore is to try to get reclamation to use that 417 process a little bit more broadly. Again, look at what efficient uses of water here in the lower basin might look like as well as to try to secure expanded authority to use that regulation in the upper basin as well. So I hope that addresses your question.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Yeah. Okay, Amanda.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Hey, Val.
Yes, yes, sir.
On our Arizona Water Banking Authority, it's not only down for information and discussion, but action.
Okay.
I'm looking at my script rather than my agenda. You're right. I thought maybe it was flipping to December. Go ahead.
My apologies, Chair Little. I think that may have been an error on the agenda. There was no expected action on the water bank item.
That will in fact come to us in December, is that correct?
So the Water Banking Commission will vote on that draft plan in December.
So we don't have to weigh in at all?
Final plan, excuse me.
Okay.
Right, correct.
Got it. Okay.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Mike, good?
Yeah, I was going to ask one question of Natalie.
Sure.
But isn't the water bank looking for comments from the GUAC?
I can let Rebecca take that.
Chair Little, members of the council, I took note of the two questions that you had today. Of course, if you have comments, I'll be happy to hear what your comments are.
Mike, do you have something you think that we ought to be weighing in on?
I think just as far as a comment of support, as far as what's being proposed.
You're cutting out for just a little bit. You're cutting out.
I'm sorry. I was saying is my only comment would be whether the GUAC wants to make a comment of support on the preliminary plan.
If that would help, I think that's sort of what we've done in the past, maybe unofficially, that we've commented and just said, you know, add a girl, add a boy, and moved on. I don't know that we've taken a vote, have we? I don't recall that we have.
Yeah, I can't recall either. It's been such a long time.
Right. But our comments might suffice. That we look forward to the final. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there other comments?
Doug, anybody? Okay, let's go on to Amanda. Item number 6, statewide planning.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? I don't want to be super loud because I am next to the microphone. How do I sound?
Perfecto.
Exactly.
Good. Okay. All right, let's get started so we can go to the next slide. So this is more of a reporting overview for the Community Water System Program. I am the Community Water Systems Coordinator. So what are community water systems? Essentially, they are just public water systems that serve at least 15 or more service connections or serve 25 or more year-round residents, and I believe year-round is designated as 6 or more months a year. There's kind of some confusion sometimes about what a public water system is. That is under statutes under Section 49, Section B. Any statutes in this program, this is a statutory program, so you can find those statutes under Title 45, 341 to 343. There are 2 categories of community water systems. There's large systems and small systems. Large systems are just systems that are more than 1,850 people, and small systems are that or less. Next slide. A community water system outside of the AMA. The community water system program mainly regulates systems outside of the active management areas. So they are subject to two forms of reporting. That'll be the system water plans and the annual reports. The CWS program essentially came from the Governor's Drought Task Force in 2005 when it was implemented, and it was to reduce vulnerability to drought and improve water supply for water providers. Next slide, please. So within the AMAs, the CWS program only regulates systems that are subject to submit system water plans. So any annual reports will still go to the annual or active management area team, except systems within an AMA that have an exempt well, which is pumps less than 35 gallons per minute. If they have more than one well and one is exempt and another is non-exempt, they will report to the active management area team. Next slide, please. So system water plans are due every 5 years on January 1st for all community water systems within and that are outside of the AMAs and inside of the AMAs. So large systems are due a year prior to small systems. So for example, this last round, we had them due on January 1st, 2022 for large systems, and this year was due for small systems on January 1st, 2023. The system water plans are composed of 3 parts. The water supply plan, which is essentially discussing their service area, their historic demand, their production, things like that. Their drought preparedness plan goes over all of the emergency water sources they can use in their plans, their drought stages, and what they determine to do for each drought stage, so in their drought emergencies. And the water conservation plan goes over everything that they are doing or currently doing or planning to do to conserve water for their water system. Next slide. System water plans have a few exemptions for each part. Community water systems that have an adequate or assured water supply designation are exempt from the water supply plan on Part 1. Community water systems with an Arizona Corporation Commission curtailment tariff are exempt from Part 2, which is the drought preparedness plan. And some system within the AMAs may be exempt from Part 2 if they can speak with me prior, or if they determine that they can prove that they're going to be regulated as a large water provider before the next community water system water plan is due. Next slide, please. So the overall process for that system water plan is we send out reminder letters anywhere between 6 to 8 months prior to the due date, because it is an 18-page document, so I like systems to be able to have time to go over that and fill it out to the best of their ability. The system water plan is received once submitted and on or before the due date, and I make a determination based on the information provided by the customer, whether that is approved or not. If approved, I will send out a letter of approval stating the system water plan meets the legislative requirements. If it is not approved, the customer will be sent a notification letter containing instructions and necessary documents to meet the legislative requirements within 120 days. If a system does not file a system water plan by the due date, a failure to file letter will be sent, and that will notify them that they need to submit their system water plan within 60 days. Before the end of the year, notification letters will be sent out to the governing bodies of non-compliant systems, and that will inform them of the system's failure to file. Next slide, please. So next up is annual reports. Annual reports are due for all systems outside of the active management areas, as well as systems within the active management areas with an exempt well. Those are due on June 1st of every year. The annual reports have 7 parts. They're only applicable parts, so If they use groundwater, they have to submit the water withdrawn section as well as the water delivered to customer section. Surface water users have to submit water diverted and water delivered. And if they sold or purchased water or received or delivered water from other systems, those parts, and use is applicable, and if they have storage facilities. Water usage can be estimated if a system does not have meters. Next slide, please. If you have any AMA reporting questions, please refer to the AMA team. Any questions for me?
Yeah, Amanda?
Yes.
I was curious on your, this year, what sort of percent of reports out of the community water systems were submitted versus not submitted?
The annual reports?
No, well, yeah, what, for this year, it was for the small providers?
Oh, for the system water plans, yes.
Yeah.
So I believe out of about 740 systems, I received about 500 total.
And that's the statewide number, right?
That's the statewide, yeah, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chairman, Pat Jacobs.
Chair Little, it looks like you were trying to speak. I think you're muted. Little whistle.
And now we lost. Pat, are you trying to ask a question?
Yes, please.
Go for it if you can.
Okay. Well, first I want to apologize for being tardy. I think I joined the agenda of item 3, and again, I apologize to all affected. Secondly, I ask about this. Has there been any analysis, such as a comparison of inflow and outflow over the last, compared to this report versus the last report, for example, or any other such analysis? Thank you.
So our system water plans, I have not compared previous rounds, like previous 5-year reports as of yet, nor have I done that with annual reports yet. Nothing official. I've kind of played around with some numbers. It does look like compliance is improving, but I don't have exact numbers on that.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments? Go ahead.
I was just asking if there was any other questions.
I think we're good. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 7, and that is the groundwater withdrawal fee recommendations and WMAP. And that is an information discussion and action item for the council. Melissa?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, council members and members of the public. I will be going over the Water Management Assistance Program fund balance and the status of the DCP groundwater conservation grants. And we'll introduce some projects that will be requesting renewals. The current balance is $98,890, and of that, $22,500 is committed, leaving a balance of $76,229. We expect to collect about $69,000 annually. And I do want to apologize on this current window, we have a mistake. And in the WMAP packet that was sent to members previously, Arizona Project WET is currently seeking to renew their contract for $45,000 for a term of 1 year, and this would leave a balance of $31,229 in unobligated funds. So Arizona Project WET is the only project currently funded in the Tucson AMA. Next, I'll give an update on the groundwater conservation grant. 2 projects are ongoing: the Expanding a Water Loss Control Program throughout Tucson Water's distribution system and the automated gate for Marana Road Canal are ongoing. The town of Marana Water Citizens Water Academy recently completed their project, and they will be presenting today. Before we move on to presentations, Natalie Mast will start with the withdrawal fee discussions, but before we do that, does anyone have any questions regarding the WMAP funds or the groundwater conservation projects? All right, so seeing no questions. Thank you, Chair Little.
Thank you, Chair Little. Patrick.
Has a question.
Which one of these fund the Arizona Water Bank? We're barred by dogs, I'll turn them off. But it basically, I understand that some of the withdrawal fees are going to the bank. Which one of these?
So, Chair Little, member, the line item for the third line item here, where it says 250, goes to the water bank. For the Tucson AMA specifically, that value, $2.50, that value is set by statute. That is not an item that we will make recommendations on today.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
So for the items on the screen and members, for the items in your packet, I think you all are familiar enough with this process. We are here today asking the GUAC to make a recommendation to the director on the withdrawal fees for next year. So as you can see on the screen and also in your packets, members, there's a little bit of a statutory framework here where for the WMAP portion, it's currently at 50 cents, and there is a maximum of $2 for that line item. Right now, admin and enforcement is at 50 cents. There is a range of 50 cents to $1 for that line item. And within those line items, the total withdrawal fee for the Tucson AMA cannot exceed $5. Members, if you'd like to discuss, staff here can be available to help answer any questions.
Any comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
I see Pat has his hand up.
Madam Chair, will you review with us our recommendation, our last recommendation in the director's action?
I think he did what he wanted to do, as he always does, no matter what. I can't even remember what we recommended. What do we recommend?
My memory, Madam Chair, was that
Go ahead.
we recommend an additional, I think it was 50 cents on the WMAP, which was rejected.
That's my memory. I just wanted to make sure that it was on the record before we make a motion. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pat, make a motion.
I would move to increase the withdrawal fee by 50 cents. What would be, what, total of $4? Is that it? Or am I adding up wrong?
Can you go back to the other screen, please?
Mike, you have a comment or a second? Nope. Was that a nope?
That was a no.
Okay.
That was a no.
Do we have a second? Okay. So that motion fails. Okay, do we have another motion?
I move that.
Madam Chair, I would motion to leave it as is.
Doug's moving, Doug's moving.
I'll second.
He didn't even move yet.
Madam Chair, I would motion to leave the fee as it is currently.
Second.
Mike? Okay, should we do a roll call, or should we just say, all in favor, say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye? Aye. Okay, unanimously.
I'm voting nay. Didn't ask for the name.
Okay, so we got 3 yeas and 1 nay. Oh, okay, perfect. That's exactly what we had last year. We're all paying attention. Okay, we took care of that, now what? Okay. Agenda item, are we to end agenda item number 8? Update for Project WET. And then, okay, do we have somebody for Project WET?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Townsend, and I am the director of Arizona Project WET. Thank you very much for
Thank you, Lisa.
today. And I do have a presentation. I think there we are. So Chairwoman Little and council members, thank you. As it had been alluded to before, there are staffing changes, and today is my full 3rd month with Arizona Project WET. So I am delighted to be here today. Next slide, please. So we have been spending quality time with the students of the Tucson AMA, in one of the places is the Sweetwater area. Next slide, please. And this is who we are and what we do. We have a team here in the Tucson AMA that engages students really from K through 12. We spend a lot of time in that sweet spot of 3rd to 12th grade. And what we're doing is really growing water literate leaders, educators, stewards. And our goal is to really inspire mindfulness in our participants so they are aware of the overarching system that they belong to. Next slide, please. So as you can see, our mission and who we are really aligns well with the terms of our IGA, which is providing experiential environmental education that centers the participant in the water cycle. I'll give you a moment. Next slide, please. So ultimately, we tell Arizona's water story, and we tell it from northern Arizona all the way to southern Arizona, side to side, and connect the story from one location to the other. And ideally, you would have seen this ahead of time, but if you go to the next slide, please. In the spring of 2022, a groundwater series began Chairwoman Little and council members, in your copy of this deck, this is a link that gets you to the page that shows you the 9-part series. And this was also made available to our program participants in classrooms as well as workshops, and for the teachers to utilize as they choose at their own pace. Next slide, please. So task number 1 was our Teacher Multi-Day Academy, and this was held in the Phoenix AMA, and it had participants from different AMAs throughout Arizona, and it built kind of that groundwater literacy to make sure that not only do we understand, but we can then purposefully share the water cycle and the groundwater integration within that cycle. So we had 12 teachers, and ultimately it impacted 1,270 students across Arizona.
Lisa, excuse
yes?
me for interrupting. How many of those 12 teachers were from the Tucson AMA?
I can pull that information for you. Offhand, I want to say there were 3 of them.
But was this money from our grant that went to that?
There was, I can't tell you the split from SRP and from our grant, but in the grant that was approved last year, this did take place, and the funds were utilized.
But we don't know how many teachers were at the academy?
Yeah, there were 12 teachers at the academy total.
Okay, but they were all from Tucson?
No, I want to say that 2 of them were from Tucson.
Okay, other questions or, sorry to interrupt you, but we are interested in this program always. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Next slide.
Okay. We're asking you hard questions because you're a new kid.
No worries. And whatever I don't know, I will research and get back to you, I promise. Then we also had task 2, which was direct student outreach. And this took place in the Tucson AMA. And as you read through the deliverables, we were responsible for facilitating 20 classes at the Sweetwater Wetland for 3rd or 4th grade students, 20 in-classroom groundwater flow model presentations for 3rd or 4th, 15 in-classroom groundwater flow model presentations for middle and high school students, as well as relevant STEM learning. And that will be our water scene investigation program, which focuses on the reduction of water use, and primarily through technology. And we did that for both middle and high school as well as elementary school. And then we provided STEM learning for middle and high school students with an event at Sweetwater Wetlands. So if you look at the next slide, as far as reaching those deliverables, there were 64 Sweetwater Wetland festivals for 4th grade. There were 50 in-classroom groundwater flow model presentations for 3rd and 4th grade students. There were 10 out of the 15 were met for middle school and high school students. The WSI or STEM school or home water audits, there were 19 out of 2. And for middle and high school STEM, with their investigation days at Sweetwater Wetlands, 25 out of 4 were met. And when you are wondering how we managed to do that, on the next slide, we had additional funding provided by dedicated partners. So the City of Tucson, Tucson Water, the Southwest Urban Corridor Integrated Field Lab, City of Marana, Corollo Engineers, Freeport, McMoran, and Sierra Rita Operations, Santa Fe Ranch, and U.S. Geological Survey. And so this is an example of recharge and discharge. So some pretty technical concepts for elementary school students. And on the right, there is one of our volunteers showing a demonstration that the students will be doing about groundwater pumping. So in front of them, they have models of Earth's materials and groundwater as well as surface water, and they pump. Next slide, please. And then if you want to click one more time, please. So what this does is it really makes these otherwise difficult concepts of groundwater more accessible to students, particularly as it pertains to the movement of groundwater. So they are going to know that gravity moves groundwater underground, the components and the composition underground, whether there's permeable, semi-permeable, or impermeable materials that we are moving the groundwater through, as well as some of those key terms: overdraft, subsidence, safe yield, recharge, discharge, and most importantly, groundwater and its impacts on our use here in the Tucson AMA. Next slide, please. So task 3 was support of the Arizona Water Festival that took place in Marana. And that was last year the single largest water festival, one-day festival at Arizona Project Wet. So there were 38 teachers and 153 parents, 44 volunteers, and nearly 1,000 students. And they rotated through 4 different activities, learning about the water cycle, groundwater, as well as the watershed. Task 4, the equipment loan program. We did have water testing kits available to teachers. Only one school took us up on that opportunity, but we did discover that there were other materials that were requested by in-classroom staff. And if you click on this photo in your deck, it will take you to the City of Marana's coverage of the Water Festival. Next slide, please. So going forward, what we would like to do is continue professional development, but this year it would look different. We have a partnership with the Southwest Corridor Integrated Field Lab, and we are doing a multi-day professional development workshop with them that has to do with really rainwater harvesting and yes.
You're cutting
I am.
Say again who you're partnering with now?
The Southwest Corridor Integrated Field Lab. And that is a
affiliated with?
University of Arizona. And then more broadly with Arizona State University, as well as there are elements that are underway at NAU as well.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so there is a multi-day professional development workshop that happens as a part of this grant. And what I would like to do going forward into this next academic year, so that would be in 24-25, is capture those participants into a cohort and then engage with them both in person and virtually over the course of the year to then kind of further develop the programming that we're doing to find out how they're using the information that they got at that professional development and then synthesized it with additional information through the programs that we're offering at Sweetwater Wetland, at Sharp, at with classroom programs, and with reevaluating and relaunching our water scene investigation, and really utilizing that group as real-time feedback for classroom and field engagement. We would also like to continue the wildly popular groundwater conservation education program, as well as water festival support. And that would be water festivals throughout the Tucson AMA as needed. We, as far as new and improved, we would very much like to look at our rainwater harvesting program, which was made available in the Tucson AMA through a grant. And this was in 2020, 2021, and that grant has since expired. But there is a lot of interest in the program. And the program, as it was written, was a two-part program, 3 components in classroom, and then that was held by Arizona Project Wet, and then that transferred to Watershed Management Group, who would do a rainwater garden installation. And the popularity of this program is still there. However, the ability to install a rain garden is not always feasible. So I'd really like to take a look at this program so we could not only kind of pull it across grade levels, but also bring an interdisciplinary approach. So we are meeting Arizona State standards, not only in science, but in math and language arts, and have the option to have this be a standalone program if the participants are unable to support rainwater or garden installation at their school site. And to that point, it may also allow us to partner with other entities if there was interest. We could look at after school programs, we could look at parks and recreation departments, as well as scouts and camps if they wanted to participate. And then with our water scene investigation, it has been very popular, this program where we look at water use reduction, and technology such as aerators. And in certain parts of the Tucson AMA, pun intended, we have reached full saturation with this program. So we really want to look at changing it to move from kind of passive technological use to incorporating other technologies, as well as behavior change and being able to qualify and quantify reduction that way. And it also kind of gives a heavier responsibility for personal accountability, and it is more accessible, particularly for homes that may not be able to access the plumbing so easily, or for individuals who may be unhoused, and it still provides an authentic experience. And then finally, to invest in engagement, we really need to make sure that we have those durable goods. So what we discovered is our testing kits were not as popular as they had been, but individuals really, schools and libraries want to check out our groundwater models or our watershed models. And we spent a good part of the year repurchasing, reconditioning, and revamping those models. So if we could go to the next slide. We have a budget breakdown of what that would look like. And built into that is, also making sure that our web engagement for participating in these projects and these experiences is user-friendly, is up to date. So working with our contracts manager, we were able to break out each estimated component. And with this request, we have, we're looking at roughly $75,000 over a period of 16 months. Our current grant expires on March 1st, or on February 28th. So this would take us from March 1st through the rest of this school year. And then it would encompass the rest of, or the entirety of the 24-25 academic year. So thank you, Chairwoman Little and council members. Any questions?
Thank you, Lisa. Comments or questions from the council?
I had a question, Chairwoman Little. Just wanted to follow up on Councilman Block's question around, there was only 2 teachers from the Tucson AMA that participated in the project and the rest were from other areas?
That is my understanding, and looking at the language in the grant, it did say Tucson AMA. I was a bit perplexed. Going forward, that would not be included in the grant request. We would actively engage teachers here in the Tucson AMA and retain contact with them throughout the course of the academic year.
Yeah, what I didn't realize when I was looking this over previously, I think when last year or whenever this was before us, I don't think we noticed that error.
I was perplexed as well.
Thank you.
Mike, Pat, do you have comments?
Yeah, I guess I'm not comfortable today voting on this as far as the whole package. I think if you go back, Lisa, to the slide that had the breakdown, I think
Yes.
your first 4 items I can totally support. I think I would need some more additional information drilling down into the program development before making a decision.
I would be more than happy to do that. And what I can do is give, I can basically deliver a report of what the program was in its entirety, where we have interest, how we would augment it, and what that funding covers. This is a program where we've gotten a lot of additional response from both the Phoenix and the Tucson AMA, educators and individuals. So what we did is looked at the original grant, and our budgeting office then kind of pulled some key costs for components. We added that up and then split it between Tucson and Phoenix AMA.
Yeah, I think it would be great to see the complete package and who's all funding what on that particular task.
Happily, yeah.
Chair Little, members of the council, if I could.
Yes.
Oh, I can let Member Jacobs go first.
Did you go back?
I'm not sure he has a question.
I did have at least a comment, Madam Chair.
Okay, good.
Can you go back to slide? I guess what I was looking for is some connection to this process and the budget process. It must be there if you're going to spend money, but I don't know if this is to be funded by other funds or out of this grant. And then the second question was, when you say professional development, is that to the teaching community, or is that wider stroke of acceptance to develop professionalism?
Thank you. So that is the teaching community, and that encompasses elementary, middle, and high school.
That answer your question, Pat?
I'll accept it. I'll go back and accept it because I'm listening through a phone, and the phone gave out on me. So, but I'll accept whatever was said. Thanks.
Well, I have a couple of questions and comments as well. What I remember from our discussion last year, the presentation that we had a year ago, we were, I think the general gist of what we were expressing is that we wanted to keep it as practical and on the ground as possible. And the more success you've had statewide, the more we feel like it's difficult to know if we're making any kind of impact here in our AMA. And so I think we held back some money last year and said that we would consider it later in the year. Somebody at ADWR can correct me if they know the deal. What I'm thinking is, in light of what Mike said, is that some of these things, the water festival, the groundwater models, the water flow models, those things are great. The more of those we have, those are practical things that teachers can use, whether they go with the whole shebang and do, days of teaching and training and all that.
Right.
I think that's where we're most comfortable. We're a pretty practical, down-to-earth bunch. And that's, I think, where we would be comfortable. Am I sort of right? I need to hear from the other council members.
Yeah, that's sort of where I was going as far as the top four. I don't have a problem with program innovation, but I need more additional information to see what might be the benefit of that. Because like when you were talking about the Marana Water Festival from and the outcome that you had from that, that was great news. That was a good investment.
Yep. Always been really popular. The water festivals and the models and so forth have always served us better, I think. I have a question about what the timing is. I mean, is there a grant cycle where we would be entertaining other, this I think is a question for Melissa, other applicants for some of this money? And can we hold off deciding how much we might provide to Project WET going forward, given the request for funding?
Sure. So currently, there are no other projects that have applied for WMAP funding since that fund is constantly open. The only project that we have is Arizona Project WET, and then the DCP ones aren't requesting any WMAP funding either.
If I could just add to what Melissa said, we actually made an error on our agenda today. I apologize for that. We did not actually have this item listed for action, so unfortunately there won't be able to be a decision or a recommendation from the council today. There won't be able to be a vote today since that's not on the agenda.
Oh, good. That's where we're going anyway.
Perhaps what I might recommend is, I heard that the contract expires at the end of February. Perhaps we could have another GUAC meeting in January-ish timeframe to consider and potentially discuss any other projects.
I think that works. Anybody object to that kind of timing?
You know,
I think that works.
I would like to be certain that we get some input from our the entities funding this program in the first place. You know, the water providers, the agricultural community, that
Right.
type of thing.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. So we have another presentation from Marana's Water Academy, and another agenda item, maybe for that January meeting, is if the CMID project is completed, we could get an update then?
That's fine. It's been completed for roughly 2.5 years.
We've ever had a final report, and
so some of the deliverables put out a report that I have to do every 6 months for that, and that's the only thing we're still doing on that. But it's been a completed project for over 2.5 years.
Because I was hoping that it might be a scale up or something like that, but maybe that's not the case. But anyway,
that actually is the case. Exactly. Not the requested from here, but the scale up that was requested from the Bureau of Reclamation has already also been installed and working.
Great. I need to hear all about that. Okay. Sorry, that was a little sidebar.
Can I ask another question to the fellow council members and Chairman Little? My memory was we approved a project for Pima County to redo their standards and their landscaping and those kind of things, and I don't see that anywhere on here. And I was wondering, did that get rejected?
Did they not follow through on that? They're still working on it?
That project for Pima County was rejected by the director.
Oh, didn't know that.
Okay.
Oh.
The county is actually working on a new landscape manual for new development. So I'm in a Water Smart group. They got a Water Smart grant.
Okay.
Okay.
To do that.
Did you know that it had been rejected by?
I can't remember.
Yeah. The question I would ask is, and it would be helpful to us, was it rejected without comment, or was there a letter that would help us understand why it didn't meet with approval? Some background would be helpful.
We can follow up on that, Chair Little, and get back to the council on that one.
Okay. Just some correspondence, maybe.
Sure.
Are we ready to move on to item number 9?
Yes.
Okay. Asia, somebody, anybody?
I think Asia is on the line.
Okay.
I just want to come here to support her in person.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
Thanks for being there, Jane.
Okay, let's see her. Let's turn on that camera, Asia. I need to see you. There she is.
She's there.
Yeah. Okay, close, so everybody can hear me and see me. No, is that right?
We can see you.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. I can actually see my screen up here a little easier, so I apologize, I won't always be looking at you. But I can see the slides are up now.
I'll be looking under your chin there for a minute.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, yeah, thanks for having me here today. I'm happy to be here to present on the Marana Citizens Water Academy with the DCP Groundwater Conservation Grant from ADWR and recommended by the GUAC back in June 2020. So next slide, please. So I'm here to present now that we've done our closeout. And I'm Asia Philbin, the Water Resources Administrator for the town of Marana. I've been involved in the project from the start, although we have had a few changes along the way. I'll talk about that a little bit through the presentation. I have, I think, about 7 slides, so it's not very long. I'm not sure why the bottom there says 59. There are not 59 slides. That is just an error, I think, in the slide production on my part. But I'm happy to I'll keep an eye out if there's hands going up to answer questions as I go, or like I said, it's not too many slides. I can take them at the end. Okay, so basically I'm planning to talk about, go back to what we have proposed back in June 2020, talk about what we came up with the final contract and amendments to that contract, how we implemented the project, some of our key findings, and the closeout of the project with ADWR, but of course it's sort of a pilot project that we had proposed and intended to sort of get us going on this continued Citizens Water Academy and conservation work with our customers. And then questions at the end. Next slide. Thanks. Okay, so this is from the presentation we made back in June 2020, requesting $25,000 to recruit participants in our academy to develop course materials and presentations, and to do some data analysis on the participants, and what they knew before, what they knew after, what kind of differences that made in their water use and behaviors. We were able to update some conservation materials, and as proposed, there was both a digital and a print materials to be produced out of this to hold a Citizens Water Academy, right, where we're inviting our customers in and talking with them directly. We proposed a 3-year timeline and total cost of about $35,000, with the Marana's match being $10,000 and the grant being $25,000, and with the project goal to really use our AMI, our meter technologies, and sort of learn how we could best use that to engage with our particular Marana Water customers and use that into the future. So next slide. And that's really, the overall program, we kind of stuck with that, though there were some changes along the way, as I mentioned. Our conservation materials, created a print and digital brand package to support the Citizens Water Academy for the town of Marana. We did a Citizens Water Academy participant recruitment, which was outreach to register the participants. Development of the course curriculum, materials, the schedule, and the survey questions. And Arizona Project WET, I will call out as from our previous presenter, was a partner with us on this. So they were contacted with us and helped us to do some of that, as well as the data tracking and analysis. We did do pre and post surveys with the Academy members who did participate, and then some additional follow-up. So next slide. Now in that, it does say in the slide title, we had a couple of amendments. So I want to thank Melissa Sykes for being very patient and working with us back even when we first were developing the contracts. We had some, I think we had originally proposed it to be stepwise payments that lined up with specific deliverables we were going to have. But although we had proposed that, it turned out that really for the town, our requirements ended up being that we had to invoice the exact amounts that we were invoiced by vendors, and because that was going to be difficult to do, ADWR was flexible and let us go to the end of the project and just submit a final invoice for the full $25,000 of all of the spending that we did through the project. So thank you for that. That really helped us be successful. And next slide. So what you see on the slide are a couple of the materials that we did develop. That's a web slider at the top there, recruiting folks for our Citizens Water Academy, and that is still on our website. So we are still signing folks up if they would like to participate in this next Citizens Water Academy, which we plan to have this before the end of this year, another academy. And we also, really helped us get going on some other concepts, right? So we had chosen water for today, water for tomorrow as sort of a slogan for the entire department for a lot of our different programs and projects. And so that's also part of that digital brand package, and you can kind of see the tie-in with the academy and those concepts of water that our digital artists here at the town developed. We also did use both the website for recruiting, and then we did set up tables at different events that the town held to get people to sign up for the Citizens Water Academy. We had a couple of town halls where we were out in the community, talking about our water resources and different things, about how our water department business operates, and sort of providing that through that town hall format, but then also engaging folks and asking them to attend the Citizens Water Academy. And then we also sent out postcards to all of our customers, all of our single family residential customers, because this was, I should have mentioned, targeting the residential customer base. We then held or developed the curriculum for the academies. We paired it as like a Marana 101, so that Marana Water, they learned all about how we operate, what the distribution folks that they might see out there in the system working on their meters. We're able to meet some of those folks. The billing services folks that work in the office, they were able to meet them, kind of talk to them in person. And then Arizona Project WET helped us, partnered with us to provide information about conservation tips and tricks. We held two sessions, or two separate academies, I should say. And those, the first one was, as was originally proposed, 6 weeks, every Wednesday for 6 weeks. We met for 2 hours. And in that session, or that academy, we included Karen Caesar was here from the CAP and was able to present to the academy. We had some other folks come in from outside agencies and give some information too. So it wasn't just Marana Water 101, but that AZ Water or Arizona Water 101 as well. And then another piece of that was the folks who signed up to participate, we installed the advanced metering infrastructure at their households. And then as they participated in the academy, they learned how to log into the customer portal and see their usage information and set up their alerts. And then, as I mentioned, we did surveys. So before the participants participated, they filled out, and I should say, we didn't have 100% return rate on our surveys, and because it was kind of a small, our total participants, we had 23 people sign up in for the first academy, of which, and then we had, during COVID, we did offer it virtually and in person, and I don't know if that had an effect, but of the 23 people who signed up, only about 10 came regularly to the sessions, whether virtually or in person. And then we were a little more successful actually getting folks to sign up in the second one that we held just this past April. About, I think 20 people signed up, and we had really 15 of those showed up for the 2 sessions. And oh, next slide, please. And I just wanted to point out something. So we had, I think we had like 18 questions overall, and a lot of this is included in the full report, but I just thought something of interest to share would be our question number 5, which was, sort of getting at what did the participants want to learn, or what did they think about what they could learn, and to rank that. And so you can kind of see, we gave them these different options. Climate change in the Southwest, that was pretty, and I don't have the key there, I'm sorry, the blue or the dark is the number, right? So the dark, from most interested would be the dark blue, to least interested would be that dark peach. Yeah, sorry about that. And I think the sample size here is 11 folks. So it's, not our whole customer base, but these are the responses. So there was definitely interest in that. At least half, 3/4 were interested, and half were very interested in that. Rainwater harvesting, maybe 25%, and maybe 50% were at least interested. And then the different types, how they could install different types of rainwater harvesting, that breakdown is, fairly similar. Water conservation for the home, inside the home, was similar to that. Climate change, about the, half were really interested, and 75% were definitely interested. And then there seemed to be very little interest in groundwater, right? Or just sort of that bigger concept of what it was. And the reason that I'm sharing this in particular is that, and then in the responses afterwards, when I asked people, what did you find most interesting? I had like 4 different separate responses where people send me an email saying how wonderful it was to learn more about groundwater. And these things that they didn't really anticipate that they would be interested in. So it's just one of the, like, once you get them in the door, there can be a lot to do there. So I think overall the Citizens Water Academy concept is going to be really successful for us for engaging our customers and sort of figuring out what they want to know, letting them know what they didn't even know they wanted to know. But it also showed, if you can go to the next slide, I think some of the other findings that we have, or the closeout, I would go to that last bullet there, which is hire a conservation professional, which we have since done. And Karen Boyce is here in the room with me, really excited about that. Because, and I heard this from other...
Asia, tell me again who you hired?
Oh, sure. Karen Boyce.
Hi, Karen.
I think you know Karen. Yeah. Great. maybe Ken can say hi later too. But you know, there is just that so much of the conservation work, and especially engaging customers. There's just a lot of resource, you know, time and energy that goes into that, and just sort of finding, you know, where it leads you to lead to these, you know, results of measurable water conservation. So back to the, you know, the first couple bullets, the materials branding and alternate approaches. We did, because we had all these digital materials, we started looking at being able to provide some of the things ahead of time. One of the survey feedback we got from the participants in the first academy was that the 6 weeks was maybe a little long, and that also the timing, we had, I think, you know, the demographic skewed, you know, folks who are retired and would be able to come to the class. But we did have a couple people who were, you know, working in the, you know, sort of 9 to 5, 8 to 4, that kind of thing, who said that it would be, we held it, I think, from 3 to 5. And so we moved it from 4 to 5:30. And then we did a number of videos. You saw in the previous presentation, those that groundwater videos that Arizona Project GUAC had set up. So we used those, and we had folks look at that in between doing the survey and then holding the session, so that they could just kind of ask us questions about the videos. And we had the second academy for just 2 days, a Tuesday and a Wednesday evening. And I think we were sort of like Goldilocks, like, you know, 6 weeks was too much and 2 days was too little. We stayed, it was scheduled for an hour and a half, and both days we stayed over 2 hours, and everyone stayed, you know, they were willing to stay, but we probably need to make it 3 days or something like that will be the just right. What else did I want to say? Yeah, the videos, I think we're going to keep producing those. Marana Water, just like we did the, you know, Water for Today, Water for Tomorrow, which is both a conservation, but sort of like an overall water messaging. We've been doing Water Wednesdays, which is, you know, fairly newly implemented for Marana Water, focusing on different aspects of our business on Wednesdays. And I think we're going to continue to, you know, sort of utilize them to get messaging out, to do introductions to all our different types of business, and to like the groundwater videos are really sort of a deeper dive that people can do if they're really interested. And we've also referred folks to the CAP University so that they can kind of follow up on to learn more about those kind of things too. And okay, those are sort of summarizing our big findings, and that close out. And the pictures you can see there are from our first Water Academy. We did use you know, some of our grant funding to purchase that big pull-up banner that you see there, and then we have some background banners and things that we're using at our promotional events to get folks to sign up, or just talking to groups about water conservation. And then we had a graduation ceremony, so you can see, I think Jing, I heard in the audience there today with you, but she was presenting all of our the Academy graduates with their certificates in that photo on the bottom. So next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we're going to continue work with our Water Wednesdays, the town's YouTube channel, to get that that information out to folks and be able to hold, you know, a in-person Citizens Water Academy where they can ask us questions, but keep it to that 2 or 3 days with a lot of support information out there that they can also look up as in addition to that. We haven't yet been able to, like I said, we use the Arizona Project videos that they had produced. They didn't produce them for us, right? So they don't have our brand on it, but I think we're going to be looking to get some of that in there too, to really engage folks who are using Marana Water. And then for the recruitment, really the 2 to 3 days is probably where we're going to best engage people and get them to come. We also found that like all of our other recruitment methods were like not nearly as good as the postcards. So we'll continue to do the postcards. They were a little expensive. It was a few $1,000s to do that actually, but that's the way we got people to actually sign up. They really took note of those postcards we sent out. We'll continue to develop those materials, like I said, the video as well as the 101. We're pretty set there to kind of keep churning out the academies. Then we'll be looking to you know, as we continue to hold those, you know, tailor them and look at the kind of savings that we can see and what the participant interest is. So, you know, so far it's been mostly anecdotal, right? But you definitely hear from people as soon as they set up their leak alerts, and rather than finding out when they get their bill, right, 30 days later or 15 days later, however much later that is, they can set leak alerts with their in their customer portal with AMI software for, you know, as low as 2 gallons an hour, something like that. It'll pop up, tell them that they probably have a leak somewhere, they can find it and they can take care of it. And that has been, everyone loves that feature, and we're looking forward to getting more customer base onto that. We have been able to continue to implement those meters and install those meters, but what we'll need to do now is to get the customer portal fully out so that all of the customers who have it would be able to engage in it. So next slide. And that's what I had for the committee, and I would be happy to take your questions. I'd like to thank the council, actually, right? I'd like to thank you for recommending this grant. I'd like to thank ADWR for helping us implement.
Thank you, Asia. It says on my script that present requests for WMAP funding. You're not asking us for additional funding. You're just reporting out on the results of your grant, right?
That's correct. Yes.
I would be interested to see what happens going forward, so that informally we'll probably get that information from in another arena, perhaps.
Sure. We'd be happy to come back.
Well, may I?
Yeah,
Ms. Chair and council.
Introduce yourself, because I'm not sure everybody knows you.
Yes, introduce myself. My name is Jing Lu. I'm the director of Marana Water. This is such a great program. First of all, truly appreciate the opportunity getting the grant funding. You know, Asia really doing a great job on this program. The thing that we found out personally, I think there's so many things that you can achieve, even with a small, relatively smaller initiative like that. You know, Asia mentioned the slogan that we say water for today, water for tomorrow. We're gonna put that on our in our lobby. So if you guys are Marana Water customer, you come in, you will see that. So the initiative from this program, right? So the other thing is water for Water Wednesdays. That's gonna be there to stay there, right? So there's so many things that we realized that we could be doing, you know, and then it's the lasting result. That's what I'm trying to say. The point is the lasting result from this program, we're gonna continue. So, you know, I was asking like continuous funding. We have not really focused on that yet. However, listening to this presentation, listening to other people's presentations today, and with this program, we probably can continue like the Citizens Academy. Although we learned quite a bit. You know, like the 2 days versus a longer, how many weeks, right? And then the Asian want to repeat a lot of things we learned. If we don't continue, obviously the knowledge will be put on the shelf, right? If we continue offering Citizens Academy, we don't have a budget for that currently. there's additional funding, yes, potentially we can bring in, continue that Citizens Academy based on what we learned and be more successful. So, thank you for allowing me.
Of course, of course. Any comments or questions about this project?
Yeah, it was great to hear that the money that was used by Marana actually acted as seed money to advance the program into the future. That's great.
And I like the flexibility and the willingness to say that certain things worked and certain things didn't. You're willing to admit that and then doing more of what works and less of what doesn't. So it's great. I'm pleased about it. Money well allocated, I think. Thanks. Okay, we don't need to take any action, so we're going to move on to item number 10, unless somebody has a comment.
Chairman Little?
Anybody have comments? Yes, sorry.
Chairwoman Little, before we move on,
what happened?
Sorry, before we move on to the call to the council, I wanted to let you know that we did send out a notice to the Pima County and informed them that the project was rejected based on the similarities of their project to the Tucson AMA low water use plant list and the technical resources that were provided on our conservation webpage.
Got it. Thank you so much for clarifying that. That's interesting.
And it looks like
okay. Now we're going to.
Councilmember Jacob wants to speak as well.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. I understand there's ongoing work by the water bank and the staff in terms of structuring the allocation of firming if and when that becomes necessary. We only hope that Mother Nature continues its good work like last year. But if there are any further discussions and agreements, I would ask that it be on the agenda for the next meeting.
So noted. Any other comments or questions from council? Anything from the public?
Madam Chair,
Oh, sorry.
I had a question, just probably going back, maybe Natalie. Do we have a set schedule for meetings? Are we planning to meet in person in the future, or where are we at with all that?
Sure, and I apologize that this meeting was virtual. As you heard with my update, we are going through a number of staffing changes, and we just couldn't quite make the schedule work for this particular meeting to be in person, but we are hoping that future meetings will be in person, so sorry about that. We do not have a set schedule for GUAC meetings at this time, but I think what I heard earlier is that we'll probably be planning on a January timeframe for the next Tucson GUAC meeting.
Good. Sounds like we have several things to talk about. Thank you. Call is public. Okay, well, we're moving right along. And with that, are there any objections to me adjourning this massive meeting? Hearing none. Thank you, ADWR, all you minions that most of you I don't even know. That's why next meeting you've got to come down, you've got to wear name tags, we've got to be able to tell you apart. We've got to have better communication, eyeball to eyeball. That's my request.
We'll be down and we'll bring some folks along next time.
All right.
Good. Bring everybody. Any other comments? I'm going to turn this meeting at 2:09. Thanks, everybody.
Hi.
Thank you.